Retiring Well, brought to you by Centennial Wealth Advisory, financial advisors specializing in retirement planning and serving all of Northern Michigan. Retiring Well, helping you plan for a successful and comfortable retirement. Retiring Well, plan to retire well.
Welcome to Retiring Well. Listen, I'm really excited today because today I have Mike Reese. He is a full-fledged partner in our company called Centennial Wealth Advisory. And we're going to have a chat today, Mike, about the pandemic and what recovery might look like. So with that, let me start with this. There's a lot of news out there, what I call noise, right? And you've got people saying the market's going to, sharply come back, what they call a V-shaped recovery. You've got those that say, no, this is going to be L-shaped. It's going to take a long time for this to come back. But you got those saying the world's going to end, and those that say we're going to recover. What do you say to that?
Well, I think you said it correctly. It seems like every day we have a new letter in the alphabet representing the recovery that we're supposed to have. Right? Yes. I mean, what was it? The V comes back quickly, and U and W and X, Y, Z, and oh, it's insane. And there's such a disconnect, isn't there?
Yes.
You have. It seems like I turn on my internet in the morning onto say Market Watch or CNBC, and oh, here's today's news. And it's, let's say it's something bad. Like the other day I saw that the world economy is losing out on $82 trillion of business, of GDP, of gross domestic product. It's kind of like the world losing $82 trillion of a paycheck. And that day the market was up 400 points. So I don't know how to make heads or tails of it. Do you?
Yeah, I don't either. I know the market is a little separated from the actual economy because most people are they're pending their hopes on this real quick recovery. So every time they hear, any good news, like there's a treatment out there, or they respond and buy stocks. I think it's that old fear of missing out, right?
Yeah, I don't know about you. I know here in Texas, where I am, I do get, it always is scary when this happens, but we are getting a number of people asking advice on, hey, is it the right time to get in? We want to buy low, right?
Yep.
Do you remember in '08? Remember people wanting to buy low at the beginning of '08, and then the market's lost, 40% more or something? That's the problem. You never know when low is. But here's something I would ask you, Larry. I mean, certainly everybody is hoping for a quick recovery, right? That's what we're all hoping for. What are your thoughts between now and the end of the year? I mean, if you were to pull out your crystal ball,
sure.
Right? What do you think? I mean, do you think there's a possibility maybe of, what if there's phase 2 in the fall of this virus? How is that going to affect things? What kind of thoughts do you have?
I tend to believe, at least at this moment, I feel like there's more headwinds than there are tailwinds. I mean, we've got, as of the airing of the show, we've got 38 million unemployed, right? UBS just did a study here recently, and they're showing that 42% of those jobs are not coming back once this thing is opened up. Now, Mike, just to put that in perspective, that's 16 million jobs that are not coming back. If we compare that with the '08 crisis, that got as high as 10 million. What does that look like?
I heard 42%, you said? 42%?
42% of those jobs are not coming.
Wow.
Now, I heard a commentary from somebody here recently, and this really hit home for me regarding this whole, what I call recovery. He said, would you think it would be good if we got back to 70% of pre-pandemic levels, right?
I'd say that's pretty decent.
It seems favorable. How about 80%? That sound even better?
Yeah, obviously better, right?
He pressed it and took it as far as this. He says, what if we got back to 90% of pre-pandemic levels? Would you think that is good?
Yeah, now think about what you just said there. You already said that 16 million of the 38 million unemployed are projected not to go back into the workforce, right?
Right.
And take that plus, and you're saying, but it'll only affect like a 10%, like 90% of recovery anyway. That would be, I think, a home run.
Right, right. So he comes back, he says, so 90% would be great. We could all agree. He said, listen, that is a 10% drop in our GDP.
Right.
If you
Right.
go back to '08, that got as high as 4% drop in GDP. What does that look like?
Whoa, time out. You're saying that it was in '08, it was only 4%?
Right.
I would have thought much worse than that.
Yeah, 4%, and a market lost almost half its value. What does that look like if we have a 10% drop in GDP and you have 16 million on the unemployment lines?
So your crystal ball, it sounds like, is saying that you feel like people are being overly optimistic right now. Is that kind of what you're thinking?
Well, here's what I think, Mike, a lot of people are tying into this. They say, well, look what the government's done. Look at all this stimulus money they're throwing at, right? And the markets really react favorably to that because they think the Feds somehow are going to pull a rabbit out of the hat. But is that money that the Feds put into this economy, was that really stimulus or was it really relief, right?
Mm.
You know, a lot of that revenue where's the pent up demand? Are consumers going to get out there? They're going to eat out twice as much as they did previously, right? During the pandemic,
Yeah.
you know, this is revenue that was lost. And is this money really stimulus money, or is it just really, you know, keeping it chugging along till we get to the other side of this?
Yeah, I think and maybe some of it's really just try to give some hope to people. You know, you bring up a good point about, for example, restaurants. I don't know about where you're at, but I've noticed here, we've had a lot of restaurants, you know, they're not opening their doors again. They're done. Are you seeing that?
Yeah, we heard just in our area here in Grand Traverse County, Michigan, they're saying that 25% of the restaurants, when this opens back up, are done or gone.
Wow.
And back.
And obviously that's going to leave space for new restaurants to open up, and that'll be great, but that takes time.
Yeah.
You know, that takes time. And, you know, even here, we are here where I live, we're opening up a bit. But I'm telling you what, people are not going back to restaurants very quickly. See, that's the thing. Everywhere we go, it's like people, they don't want to congregate yet. They're not confident enough yet that they want to get together. And if they don't get together, that's going to really harm a number of industries. I think that's going to make it really hard for the economy to have that, you know, that V-shaped bounce back, like, you know, like I think the market is expecting.
Yeah, Mike, I'm glad you brought that up because, you know, I heard somebody say, you know, and I really kind of fall into this same kind of thinking myself. They said, you know, when this completely reopens up again, all right, you're probably going to see 1/3 of the people jump out there right away, right? No
Right.
fear. The other 2/3 are going to lay back for a little bit to see what happens to the 1/3, right? Then you got another 1/3, once they feel that, you know, the coast is clear, are going to start meandering their way back into the economy. But you got 1/3, they're gonna wait. You know, they've got health issues. They might be elderly. There's no cure for this yet. You know, they're not out of the woods yet, so they're going to probably hold back. And you know, so what does that look like even when we reopen? I dare say it. I just can't see it coming back quickly. It just seems like it's going to take a while. You know.
Right. So we've got, basically what we have here is we've got a scenario where I think the markets are expecting quick recovery. I think most of us who actually pay attention to this stuff are, we're not as optimistic as the markets as a whole, right? We think that there are, I like your word, headwinds.
Yes.
And yet, on top of all of that, we have this sizable part of the population where they're either retired already, they're nearing retirement, and naturally, Larry, they're worried because they saw what happened in March. And I don't know about you. I mean, our clients, we did a great job. I know you guys, and that both up there, down here, we do a great job protecting clients, but we got a lot of calls from people who were not clients who were freaking out, quite frankly, worried about, hey, can I retire when I want to retire? I plan on retiring at the end of the year. Can I still do that? Right? Or I just retired. And am I going to have to go back to work? I mean, naturally, people are starting to understand or remember that markets can go south pretty darn fast if things don't go well.
Yeah.
So, what types of, we always hear out there, the whole industry, what's their answer to everything? They just say what? Hold on. Markets always go up over time. Just wait it out. You're invested for the long run. How does that advice, land on the people you're talking to who are either, if you're 40 years old, it's one thing, right? But if you're 60 and you want to retire in the next couple of years, do you have the time to
Right.
withstand some of those drops? I mean, how is all of this landing, and what are you telling people to do?
Yeah, Mike, I think you're exactly right. I mean, if I'm soon to be retired or retired, which is mostly the folks, we deal with, listen, they don't have 40 years to wait for the line to come back. And, they're either soon to be retired or they're taking income from their portfolios now. They can't see a 50% drop in their accounts. They would never want to see that. But what happened in March should really cause people to wake up, because that literally the market dropped 34% in a 2-week period. That's unprecedented, right? Historically, it's never dropped that fast so quickly. Why is that, right? And why could that not happen again, especially if we get like a second wave, or what I call when the realities of what the economic damage this has done start to come out, because they really haven't started to come out yet. We hear the high unemployment numbers, but people almost become numb to it, right?
Right.
38 million are on unemployment, right? Businesses are completely shut down. Many are not going to reopen when this comes out. And those realities, that economic damage is hardly priced in right now to the market, right? So could it drop just as quickly again? I don't have a crystal ball. You don't have a crystal ball, but if it happened once, it can happen again, right?
Yeah, and I would like to remind you, Larry, that actually I do have a crystal ball in my office.
You do.
I do. Those things are heavy, let me tell you. And all that I've seen, I've spent hours gazing into my crystal ball. And Larry, all I have seen is that it works really well as a magnifying glass. You see the stuff behind it really well. I don't see anything inside. Maybe I just don't have the gift.
Yeah.
But this kind of reminds me a little bit. Back in, oh gosh, remember 2000, 2001, 2002, we had the dot-com crash. And do you remember that, Larry, where those days, I remember Amazon was at $100 a share, right? What is it today? Like 2,000, right? But back then it was $100. And everybody's like, oh my goodness, that is so highly priced. And within a year and a half, it went down to $7.50. Right? We all thought they were going bankrupt. But there was a dot-com crash. The NASDAQ lost something like 80% of its value in a year and a half. And then 9/11 hit right behind it. And the economy was just crushed. I remember that after 9/11, the stock market closed for like 2 weeks. Nobody could put money in. Nobody could pull their money out. It was, wow, that was unprecedented. But here's the thing, and this is kind of why I bring this up. I remember talking to family after family after family in 2002 after all of this. And half of their money, over and over again, half of their money was gone. Half of their money was gone. And they all believed that they were diversified. That's what they all thought. My advisor told me we're diversified. Everybody says we're diversified.
Right.
And every one of them, their retirement dreams were crushed because diversification did not protect them.
Right.
And then I met this great couple. I remember that they lived out on Long Lake, right? I remember visiting with them, and they had, Larry, their portfolios down a bit, but they didn't have a care in the world. In fact, they were getting ready to jump in their RV and go driving around the country. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, what's going on? Here's this couple that everybody's freaking out. It's like business as normal for them. Their retirement wasn't affected at all.
Right.
What was the difference? The difference was that couple on Long Lake, they had a great pension. And kind of what that taught me was that diversification, which we all want to be diversified, and that's a great thing, but there's a bit of a missing link with diversification. And that missing link is diversification assumes that you have your income covered, that you don't have to take money from your portfolio or a very small amount. So that's something that I learned way back in 2002. And so, and both, you know, in our offices up there in Michigan and down here, what are we doing? You know, what are we telling people who are retired that are nearing retirement?
Right.
It's like, guys, you've got to have your income protected, right?
Yeah.
I mean, why don't you talk about that a little bit? Talk about protecting income.
Listen, markets are cyclical. You'll have long periods where the economy is in expansion, and then it's typically followed by contraction. When things go up and sometimes things go down. That's the way the markets roll. But what is not acceptable is when there's clear evidence that the market is maybe heading into recession or a slowdown, and most advisors are sitting back saying, hey, just stay the course. Listen, most are trained to follow what's called a buy and hold strategy. They figure that if they just get you well diversified, then when you hit periods like that, you should just hold the line, right? Unacceptable. If you look back in 2008 when the market dropped to half its value, it took almost 5-6 years to get back to where you were at. And if you're somebody near retirement, in retirement, possibly taking income from that portfolio, that's not going to work. So when there's clear evidence that we're entering into recession, we believe adjustments are necessary. So I encourage you, when times are good right now, take the opportunity, give us a call, let us sit down with you, see how you're positioned to make sure that that can't happen to you.
We look forward to helping you plan to retire well.
Your grandchildren are precious to you. They are your life. This is your time to have that special relationship. Taking care of yourself is taking care of them. Centennial Wealth Advisory is offering a free, no-obligation retirement review to make sure you don't run out of money during your retirement. Centennial Wealth Advisory. Your best is yet to come.
Are you drawing closer to retirement or already retired? Do you feel confident that you have a plan in place for your retirement? At Centennial Wealth Advisory, we believe there are a number of areas within your retirement plan that must be working together. It's very important that you have a long-term income plan. You don't want to run out of money in retirement. And we believe that tax planning should go hand in hand with your income planning. So we have our very own accountant on the team to assist you. We also believe that you need to have your estate planning in order to ensure that your assets are left behind to your loved ones and/or charities. Along with that comes insurance planning, whether that's life or health. Along with all of this, obviously comes your investment planning, which you need to have confidence will help you accomplish your goals and objectives. As you can see, there's a number of areas that you need to be taking into consideration when it comes to your retirement planning. We'd love the opportunity to share with you how we approach all of these areas within your retirement plan. Please call the number on your screen.
Like if I'm going to retire in a year from now or the end of the year, what should I be doing in your opinion?
Well, you know, Mike, you go back to that buy and hold strategy, right? Just, you know, diversify and then just hold the line. If economic fundamentals are telling me we're clearly in recession, possibly depression, and earnings are going to suffer and the market most likely is going to take a dip accordingly, why would I want to just stay the course, right? Why would I not want to, why would I want to kind of take a defensive or protective posture for a period of time, especially till we get to the other end of this? I would much rather keep my powder dry, as they say, right? And redeploy it when I see that things really are starting to turn around, rather than just watch this thing possibly drop to half its value and then trying to wait 4 or 5 years to come back, right?
Wait, you're saying, Larry, that if I have the typical portfolio of someone that's going to retire in a year is, I mean, I don't know about what you were seeing, but I see people all the time with about 70% of their money in the stock market, you know, or more. I
Right.
shouldn't just hang on and let it fall before I retire. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. Why would I want to do that, right? You know, and I want to talk about something real quick that you talked about, that 2000, 2002, recession that we had. And the economy was already faltering. Equities were already kind of overvalued from that .com thing. And the trigger was 9/11, obviously, right? The economy, again, going into this pandemic, was not doing well. If you look at 2019, the first 3 quarters of 2019, it was a year-over-year earnings loss. The fourth quarter ended up being up, but it was less than 1%. So for all practical purposes, earnings were flat. I was already expecting some kind of a correction or pullback before the coronavirus hit, right? So even if, we get back to, and I say this is highly unlikely from the things we were talking about earlier, but even if we got back to 100% pre-pandemic, if that was even a possibility, that's not necessarily, was not good.
Right. I remember that you and I had talked about this, where our concerns when we were looking at the underlying fundamentals, that already it seemed that the market was kind of reaching its peak level, right? Already.
That's right.
And so I know that you particularly were talking about getting more defensive as the year. I think you started doing that into last year and beginning of this year. And so, like you said, what if the markets go back to pre-pandemic levels? As you recall, that wasn't the greatest story, was it?
It was not. It was not. And for all the things we talked about, I highly doubt we're going to get back to those levels.
So is it fair to say that if I'm a person who wants to retire in the next couple of years, would it not make sense, what I'm hearing you say, and I don't want to assume, so tell me if I'm hearing you correctly. I'm hearing you say, Mike, if that's you, you should probably start taking some of those chips off the table, right? Start moving some money into some safe havens, right? And safeguard that money so that that you'll be able to still retire on time, even if the markets collapse on us.
Yeah.
Is that kind of what you're saying?
Yeah, especially, Mike, if that person is somebody that saw that big drop. I mean, I would go back to that 2-week period it dropped in March. And if you saw your account drop, 30, 34%, well, I can tell you how risky you are. You're pretty much all in the market, right? And now if you've seen that bounce back since then, it hasn't come back to where it was at, but it's come back to about where it was at September of last year. So, if you look at it that way, you haven't really lost a lot at this point. Now would be the time to get defensive, to get that preserved,
Right. How many? Yeah, I was going to ask, how many people have you spoken to, Larry, over the past couple of months, ever since March, right?
Yep.
Where they all said, oh my gosh, I can't believe I lost as much money as I lost so quickly. As soon as it gets back up, I'm going to do something different.
Yeah.
Or as soon as it gets even close,
Yeah.
I'm going to do something different.
Yeah.
Guess what? It's close,
Right.
right?
Right.
What you're saying is now is the time, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Now
Well, what a lot of people are doing, Mike, is they're looking at the year to date, right? They're saying, okay, it went down, now it's back up. I'm still down. I think I'm going to hold on. And I'm saying, wait a second, go back a little bit further, because in the fourth quarter, there was a run up. I bet if you looked at where you were at the end of September and now compared it with you're going to find you're about back where you were at
Right.
that. And they're looking at it and go, you know what, you're right. I really haven't had a loss if I look at it the way, yes, now would be a good time to preserve it. So,
yeah, I think the way that I would share with folks is, look, you're never going to buy at the exact right time. you're never going to sell at the exact right time. Just be somewhere close, right? Just be somewhere close and you'll be fine. Right now you're close. So here's the thing you need to understand. If you lost more money in March than you expected, then it is time for you to get your risk levels looked at. It's time for a risk realignment, if you will. And I know that you thought, oh no, my market crashed. I lost a bunch of money. It's too late to do that. But guess what? Now you've made up a bunch of those losses. Now it's not too late anymore. Now it's time to get your financial house in order. You know, Larry, I know we're kind of running a little tight on time here. Tell me a little bit. So I'm sitting here watching the show and, you know, what can I do? What should I do? How can you help me, Larry? How can the guys there in the Traverse City or Grand Traverse offices, you know, how can they help the viewers with their retirement planning?
Well, first of all, you know, this would be the time to absolutely get a second opinion, right? I mean, let us take a look at, you know, how aggressive your portfolio is postured, see what kind of risk are you taking, and ask the tough questions. You know, how much are you willing to lose in this? You know, what is your risk tolerance? Are you going to be more upset if you lost more than 10% or you missed the gains on 10%? You know, which one would bother you the most, right? And are you invested appropriately? But now that we've had this bounce back and we're probably back to where you were at maybe in September, now is the time to have that conversation. Most of the advisors out there, they do adhere to just a buy and hold strategy, right? And they're not having the conversations with you because basically they want you to just stay the course. We don't think that should be your posture. We think you should get a second opinion. So that's where we're going to start. I have a lot of people rolling money over to us and we're just sitting in cash right now, waiting to deploy. You know, why is that a bad thing? You know,
It's
maybe
not.
maybe sprinkle it with some safe havens just in the meantime to try to get a little bit of yield, but why is that a bad thing, right?
Right. And then the other question I might ask is, what's it cost for them to sit down and visit with you? I mean, is there a fee? Is it free? How does that work?
No fee to have a discussion. I mean, that's our privilege to, you know, give you a second opinion, see if we can maybe be of any help.
Okay.
You know, if we're a fit, great. If we're not, we're okay with that. We're just thankful we had the opportunity to show you what we do and how we do it.
Okay. So free conversation, number that they call to have this. I'm assuming there's a phone number. What number should they call?
Yep. You want to call 231-995-9575.
All right. And I'm sure it's on the screen as well. So I know we're running a bit out of time here, Larry. Anything we want to say to wrap up the show today?
I just want to thank our viewers, but Mike, thank you for joining me. I'd like to do this again with you. This is kind of fun.
Yeah, good visiting from nice, warm Texas.
Yeah. Thank you, Mike. Appreciate it. And thank you, viewers.